welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Taylor and today I'll be doing a fall reading wrap up. But before we hop in the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you love all things books, and happy Bookmas Day 3. So as I've explained in my little life updates, September, she was good. She was a great reading month. October and November, not so great because travel, sick, like really sick for a little bit there. And I guess through all of that, I just kind of either got put in a reading slump or my mental and physical health was just to the point where I'm like, can't accomplish anything. So most of the books I'm going to be talking about today, I did read in September, but I read or finished a couple books-ish, in the months of October, November. I think collectively in October, November, I bought way more books than I read, which feels like a shot to my heart, especially as someone who wants to save a little money, but we'll see. So I guess without further ado, let's hop into the fall reading wrap-up. The first book I finished in September was Icebreaker by A.L. Graziati. So it's been a while since I read these. I think I finished this at the beginning of September. So just bear with me if I don't remember everything. So this is a young adult queer novel following Mickey James III, I want to say is our main character's name, who is entering college, his first year of college, with the knowledge that after his first semester, he's going to be automatically drafted into the hockey like his legacy father and grandfather, who were major NHL players. And he's not sure how he feels about this. In conjunction with all of the things going on in his college life, he's dealing with not being out with his bisexuality and the struggles of that, being a queer man in a very super macho filled in situation, as well as he's dealing with severe depression. So there's very big depression rep. Also, he's been put on a team with his rival Jason Caulfield, and we have a little bit of rivals to lovers going on here. Obviously, we have some awards here. I end up giving this book 4 stars. So I think this book was well written and everything. There's just 2 things that occurred that were really more, one, they're both a me problem. One, this is definitely more of a serious, dramatic tone. Based on everything that we discuss here, there's very little levity that takes place in here. And I think I'm just the kind of person who, if I'm going to read a very serious, dramatic book, I'm going to need a little more comedy and levity to lift me up. So that's really that for me. Also, it was very much so an open-ended ending, and I like to have some finality to my ending. So if you're someone who doesn't mind an open ending, you'll probably rate it higher. But this one I highly recommend to those who are dealing with depression or have someone who's dealing with depression in their life, just because this one does do a pretty good portrayal as someone who handles it, of how that goes about. And yeah, so definitely great depression rep, but also do check your trigger warning, because if you are in a depressive state, I don't know how you'll feel about this, because it can be a little triggering and sometimes. Then I read This Book is Gay by Juna Dawson. This is the updated version as of, I think, 2021? I'm not sure, but the original one came out in 2014, and this one is revised and updated. Obviously, we have the progress flag on the front instead of the OG pride flag. And this one is just a nonfiction queer guide to those either newly coming out, figuring out themselves, or parents or individuals who have friends in the community. And when I posted my review of this, I can see why it's one of the most banned books in America, because some people found it and had some things to say. To me, this book is just a very good, quick read for those. I think this is definitely going to be helpful to newly out and newly queer people. However, I think it has most effect on those who are struggling or don't know how to understand or interact with people, like newly formed allies. Parents of newly coming out individuals, there's a whole chapter in there for you. There's also a whole chapter on, queer sex. So maybe that might be a little more helpful to some people, just because I think newly out queer people nowadays, they're coming out younger, and they're also, most of it is available on the internet to find things. We also have all these amazing queer YouTubers and influencers. I mean, if you want to include me in there, there's that. But yeah, I think this one is a very good read, and I'm going to promote banned books because no one banning books has ever really been a good person. Then the next book I read was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer, and this is her debut romantasy novel that follows Evie, who by chance stumbles upon the villain bleeding out in the middle of the woods, and he's like, "You need a job?" And she's like, yes. And then she becomes his assistant, and romance and shenanigans ensue from there. There's a little bit of romance going on. Because this is going to be a 3-part series, there is obviously like slow burnness to it, and as someone who doesn't love slow burn, you'll see that certain things may have occurred that like didn't make me love the second book as much. But the first book was just a fun, silly little romp. It's definitely leans into the rom-com. Evie says the, most out-of-pocket innuendo type things. Tristan, the villain, he just is that. And yeah, and then I finished book 2 in the month of November. This one I gave a 4-star, whereas I gave the first one a 4.5-star, just because while this book continues the storyline, there's a couple things. One, we add new character voices to the chapters. I think I'm just not as invested in the found family of this series as I am other series, as well as the slow burn keeps slow burning in the fact that they keep miscommunicating. Like, have a conversation, babes. Like, talk it out. Please. Please. It just irks me sometimes because I feel like the more you draw it out, the more it's just like, well, why do you even like each other? You don't want to talk to each other, obviously. But yeah, again, another fun, silly, goofy time. Also, the title's a little misleading because the title of apprentice doesn't really get, put onto her until past the halfway mark of this book. So she's really more assistant to the villain for most of this book, in my opinion. Also, every twist and turn in here I guessed from the beginning. So if you're just wanting fun, silly, goofy times, these books are for you. I think they're just a great little laugh. But if you're looking for more like hardcore fantasy, maybe not your vibe. Then we have A Bond Me for Two by Trinity Wynn. This is her debut YA sapphic novel. And man, was she a fun time. Also, sprayed edges. And, well, not sprayed edges. These are printed edges because you can tell that they are printed on the side. But yeah, this one is very cute, very pretty. Love the pink, love a grand old sapphic time. And for a debut novel, she was great. She was great. She was short, sweet, under 300 pages. If you're looking for a quick read, this is it. So essentially in this one, you are following Lon, who, one of them is from Vietnam and one of them is a daughter of Vietnamese immigrants. I just can't. Okay, so you're following Lon, who is in Vietnam right now, in Saigon, who has lost her father, and she is doing her best to help her mother run the Banh Mi cart. While also on the side, she and her father used to run A Banh Mi for Two, which was a very popular Vietnamese food vlog, and she is just having struggle finding inspiration to write anymore with her father passed away. And on the other hand, you're having Vivi, who is the daughter of Vietnamese immigrants who refuse to talk about their time in Vietnam. So she lies to them and says she's actually going on a school trip to Singapore when she's going to Saigon so she can find her mother's long-lost family members and get to connect with her heritage. And while there, the two of them connect and romance ensues. And man, was it just a fun time. You have a good mix of cutesy, happy, lovey-dovey things while also touching on some harder topics of grief and just sort of tourism in these areas and like just clashing cultures of like, it's just a great time. I highly recommend if you're looking for a sapphic romance, especially since apparently on TikTok, the conversation around sapphic romances got a little heated and I'm like, what? Why not? We need sapphic representation in our life. Also, props to her for this being her debut novel. Then on Kindle, I read Our Secret Moments by Janisha Boswell. This is another debut novel. Also, this author was 18 when she debuted the novel, so major props to her. And this is a sports romance that follows Catherine and Connor. Catherine and Connor have known each other their whole lives, and Catherine is best friend with Connor's sister. And she's always had a little bit of a crush on Connor, but unbeknownst to her, Connor's also kind of always had a little bit of an unrequited crush, on her. So all that sort of culminates into one night. They're placed in this little like closet where if you get placed in this closet, if you get pulled in there, you are destined to end up together. And guess what? They are destined to end up together. And that happens. He's a football player. It's fun. It's spicy. It's really cute and sweet. There's a little miscommunication and stuff like there. But I'm excited to read the next one. I gave this one a 4.25. And for your debut novel, I also want to give props to you, Janisha. I believe this is going to be a 3-part interconnected standalone series, but only part 2 was out. And that's following again, the sister of Connor and Connor's best friend. So we reversed the roles there. Also on Kindle, I read Honeybloods by I.S. Bell. This is another sapphic little story. This one I didn't really enjoy as much. So I think this is a 3-part novella series following Honey, hence the title Honeybloods, who one night gets a full Jennifer's body, gets, bitten by this vampire boy band situation, only they didn't kill her. So she wakes up, attacks a cop, and is like, hey, calling up the ex-bestie, can you help me bear this body while also helping me go to find these guys who turned me so I can kill them and unturn myself? And they go on a little road trip, and a little sapphic situation sort of ensues. I didn't really enjoy this one. We know me, it's hit or miss with vampire stories, and for like a Jennifer's Body like sapphic retelling, you would have thought, amazing. I was bored the whole time. Not really my cup of tea. I'm probably not going to continue on with it, but who knows, if you're looking for sapphic vampires and you really love the whole Jennifer's Body concept, you might like it. I gave it 3.5 stars. Let's talk about top 10 reads of the year here, and that is Bloodmark, the sequel to Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Did I have a whole reading vlog filmed of me reading and reacting to this? Yes. Did it get deleted? Absolutely. So you're going to have to hear about my thoughts here. As we all know, Legendborn was my favorite read of, was it 2022? I think 2020. I don't think I read it last year. I think I read it the year before. But hey, look, I also got the Sprayed Edges edition. Loved it. 5 stars. This book, no exception. 5 stars. The romance be romancing. The ending. The ending I kind of like saw. Like in my head, I'm like, ooh, this would be good. Like if that person, I understand. And then deals are made. Oathbound is coming out next year, and that's going to be on my most anticipated reads for next year. So highly recommend the entire Legendborn series. If you haven't read it, what are you doing? This is YA fantasy. We've got love triangle going in. You got friends to lovers, enemies to lovers. Check up your trigger warnings. It deals heavily with grief, as well as there's a lot of discussion about race and microaggressions. There is a scene in here that might be a little triggering surrounding that topic. So do check that out. But, I mean, buy it for all your friends. Read it. Recommend it everywhere. What more can I say? Then to close out the month of September, I started the Chestnut Spring series. So let's talk about Flawless by Elsie Silver. So we all know earlier this year I read the Gold Rush Ranch series. Loved it. It's like a 4.5 star series. She was a grand old time. So now I got to see what everyone's talking about in Chestnut Springs. So Flawless is the first book in the series, and it follows Summer and Rhett. Summer works at the PR firm that Rhett Eaton is represented by, and when Rhett comes out and says, is caught on camera one saying he doesn't like milk, even though he's got like a Got Milk sponsorship, and then is caught punching a guy, he is sent a little babysitter in the form of Summer to say, hey, keep this man on track. No PR situations need to take place. And while on the road, Summer, who just happened to have a little crush on this guy when she was a teenager, is like, I don't know, he's still cute. And then he's like, she kind of cute. And then, romance ensues. And all the fun little cowboys, romance stuff happens. And I ended up giving this book 4.75 stars. Will I give the rest of the books in the series that same rating? I don't know. I'm only in 2 books in, and then the other book is on my TBR for this month. So we'll see how I feel. But Elsie Silver just knows how to write a romance. So if you're looking for a fun, spicy little Western time taking place in Canada, this is it. Also, found family. If you like a good found family, these little interconnected standalones are for you. I will say Summer did have a lot of health problems as a child. There is also a situation of grooming in this book, so do keep that in mind when you are reading it. Now we have entered the month of October, and you're going to start to see I had a good start to the month, and then it all went downhill from there. Because the good start to the month was finishing Daydream by Hannah Grace. We finally got Henry's novel. And not to mention Hallie, Swifty, eldest sister, family planner, loves to write and read romance. Yes, queen. Hallie is queen. So in this story, you're following Henry, who has recently become the captain of the hockey team, and he's not sure how he feels about this because he is neurodivergent. We're never explicitly told what it is that he is dealing with mentally, but you know that he is a neurodivergent character, and he struggles in social situations. But while he's out one day, he accidentally crashes Hallie's book club, and he's just like starts a little flirtation with her. And then they start to help each other out. She starts to help him work through a class that he's having trouble with, and he helps her by helping her in her social life because she just recently went through a bad breakup and she's just not sure that she has the life experience necessary to write her romance novel because she's never really experienced romance in the way that she should. And then, lots of slow burn romance ensues from there. It's this one slow burn where I'm like, okay, I can see it. I give you exceptions, mainly just because I absolutely love Henry. Yes. This is what I ended up giving 4.5 stars. Is it the greatest romance novel ever? No. Is it my favorite in the series? Absolutely. This is a series that you read for found family and found family mostly. This is also her least spicy book in the series. I don't know if it's the last one or not, but it is the third book. So you have Icebreaker, Wildfire, and then Daydream. So I do recommend the Maple Hill series. I definitely think they get better as they go on. However, I've heard mixed reviews on who's everyone's favorites. But if you like a little hockey romance and you're looking for a little bit of eldest sister representation, this one's for you. Then I read the Nick and Charlie novella by Alice Oseman. I think this is the story that kicked off the whole Heartstopper inspiration because it says that it was first published in 2015. So this is essentially everything that takes place after all the Heartstopper graphic novels because this is definitely right before Nick is going to, head off to college. If you haven't read Heartstopper, I'm sorry if that's a spoiler that high schoolers are going to college eventually. But yeah, so this is a novella that follows Nick and Charlie as they are struggling with the aftermath of what I assume is going to be that's what happens in book 5. I'm not sure. I know there's going to be book 6, and that's going to be the last graphic novel. But yeah, this one was fun, quick read. I thought I was picking up the book that takes place between 4 and 5. However, I didn't. I wanted to read it before Heartstopper Season 3 came out because I knew that was going to take place storyline-wise in Season 3. But yeah, this one actually takes place probably in Season 4. It one was cute. If you are a fan of Heartstopper, this is just a little extra sauce to add on top of things. I'm sure this will be explored in book 6 of the graphic novel. I gave it 4 stars. She was fun, she was short, she was sweet. You have it's mostly written, but you have some pictures in there. So if you love Nick and Charlie, pick up the entire collection. Then I finished Heartless, second book in Chestnut Springs series. This one follows Willa and Cade. So Cade is a single father. He and the mother are estranged. She left him, and he's going to be busy over the summer, and he needs someone to watch after his kid, and he needs them to be able to stay on the ranch and be there pretty much 24/7. And Summer's like, what about my best friend Willa? She's free for the summer. She doesn't have a job, and he's like, okay. And then when Willa shows up, he's a little like, what is this firecracker 25-year-old who seems to be just sort of, going out and doing things. You just say there's a clashing here. But he starts to realize how great she is with his son, and then they're like, kind of attracted to you. And then they're fighting it off because AJAP, Cade's like, I don't know, will she want me? I'm kind of damaged goods. And Willa's like, maybe. And then romance ensues from there. It's spicy, it's single dad, But yeah, fun, great time, gave it 4.75 stars, same as Flawless. And I can't wait to see how Perilous goes. Then the only other book I finished in the month of October was an audiobook that I've been listening to for way too long, and that is by The Hidden Culture, History, and Science of Bisexuality by Julia Shaw. This is essentially what it is. It's a nonfiction book all about bisexuality. She opens with a little history, then she dives into sort of the science of attraction and polyamory and threesomes and sort of why all these people make all these assumptions, as well as it touches on a lot of the biphobia and the attacks on queer and bisexual people in America, specifically in the UK, because she's focusing on the UK because she lives there, I believe. And it was a good audiobook. It was short, it was sweet. It's on Spotify Premium if you have it. I don't really rate nonfiction, so I think all people who want to learn a little bit about themselves if they're bisexual or just want to learn more about bisexuality, this is a good listen/read. Then I finished 2 books in the month of November, 3 in October, 2 in November. I usually read at least 5 books in a singular month. So this is a little much. And I started this book in October. This is Anna Dressed in Blood. So this is a YA horror novel following Kaz, whose father used to be this prolific ghost hunter, but once he was killed by one of the ghosties that he was hunting, Kaz took over the family business. And now Kaz is 17, sort of senior in high school, and he has hit up his biggest score, Anna Dressed in Blood, this prolific ghosty serial killer in Canada. Only problem is when he arrives, he starts to feel things for other people and develop these relationships that he's never had before. and that sort of complicates the whole situation. This is the first book in a duology. I thought it was a fun, quick read. It's just over 300 pages. It looks a little longer than that just because there's a bonus epilogue novel in there. I didn't read that one. It wasn't really necessary to the plot, as far as I understand. I gave it 4 stars. I don't know if I said that already. She was fun. She was quick. It was a horror novel. I think if I had read this at a different time when I wasn't super sick and slumped out, I probably would have rated it higher. But for right now, she stands at 4 stars. And obviously the last book I finished in the month of November was Apprentice the Villain, which I already talked about. So those were all the books I read this fall. Hopefully I can pick it back up in the month of November now that I'm feeling a little bit better and I'm finally back on the consistent schedule because I got a lot of books to make it through. Let me know what you read this fall and what you're going to be picking up in December, and I will see y'all in the rest of Bookmas.